As the May elections draw near, politicians are all out to win the positions they're vying for, and the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, is working double time on its crackdown on campaign violations. Under COMELEC Resolution 9615, standard campaign posters must measure only 2 by 3 feet and be displayed only in common poster areas. No campaign materials may be posted on public structures or edifices, public transport terminals, electric posts and wires, thoroughfares, and the like. And the national candidate's airtime for political advertisements must not exceed 120 minutes in all TV networks and 180 minutes in all radio stations. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court issued a status quo ante order against the said airtime limit, barring the COMELEC's implementation. The COMELEC has intensified its fight against violators by installing its campaign finance unit that closely monitors campaign spending. It has also launched public service announcements through the characters of Boy Bawal and Tina Tama, who preach the do's and don'ts of campaign practices. The COMELEC also seems to find its strongest tool in disciplining campaign violators through social media. Empowering the so-called netizens, the COMELEC urges the public to report violations through its Twitter account, @COMELEC, using the hashtag Sumbungmo or Sumbungko. The 2013 midterm polls are shaping up to be an exciting one. I'm Nancy Irlanda, and this is Elections 2013. Tonight, we talk about the campaign guidelines of the Commission on Elections, or the COMELEC, as well as its monitoring schemes and the alleged violations of some political candidates. Joining us tonight, COMELEC's Law Department Head, Attorney Esmeralda Amora Ladra, and from No More EPAL Movement, an election advocate group, Attorney Irene Aguila. Good evening, and thanks for joining us on Elections 2013.
Good evening.
All right, historically, the Supreme Court and the COMELEC have been at loggerheads over various election issues, even prompting the current COMELEC chairman, Sixto Brillantes, to ponder on who is actually running the elections. Is it the COMELEC or the Supreme Court? And just this Tuesday, the Supreme Court had issued a status quo ante order stopping the COMELEC from implementing its resolution capping the airtime on political advertisements. First off, Director Ladra, your thoughts on that ruling?
Yeah, I can very well understand the feelings of our honorable chairman, no? Because nakikita naman natin, everybody sees that he has been trying his best as chairman of the commission to really implement the laws. And in fact, for the first time, we have, of course, this resolution number 9616 on the campaign finance. And we have been really trying our best. Kung makikita din ninyo, if you will only take a look at the insides of COMELEC, the Honorable Commission and Bank has been meeting and trying really to have these preparatory activities succeed in order for us to, of course, be able to have these elections peaceful, orderly, clean, credible, honest, and all those things that we would like to have an election successful.
All right. Attorney Aguila, are you surprised that the Supreme Court comes out with this SQA?
Well, surprised that it happens now under a regime that promises to be one that's reform-oriented. Because for us, we see this as a step back. You know, for the longest time, we feel that we've been deprived of much-needed electoral reforms. And I think for a long time, the COMELEC was never really as bold as it has been to try to clean the electoral process, to try to put some order to it, to try to democratize campaign spending, and really put meaning into what campaign really is supposed to be.
All right. In 2009, the Supreme Court had decriminalized premature campaigning, saying that a person is only a candidate when the official campaign period begins. That seems to negate the whole idea. It's become difficult to implement any resolutions or any laws that cover premature campaigning. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very not only disappointing, but very difficult, in fact, to monitor as of this time, because you've seen all those propaganda materials even before the start of the campaign period, but you cannot do anything. And not only campaign materials that you will see, even some people already who have filed certificates of candidacy, giving donations, or most of the time what we call premature campaigning, and even making some speeches that we can call propaganda activities, political activities. But we cannot do anything because under the law, Republic Act 9369, which was only an amendment of 8436, it says there you cannot be a candidate until such time that you will start the campaign period, and the Prohibited Act will only attach as a candidate or to the person who has already filed a certificate of candidacy at the start of the campaign period.
All right, I want to hone in.
It's frustrating.
Yes, I can understand, and I want to hone in on Director Ladra's phrase saying that we cannot do anything about it, right? Are we really helpless against premature campaigning? And what have we learned from the experience in other countries?
I think there's several things we can learn from other countries. One, we have to remember that our election season is really very short. It's really very protracted. So you have 45, 90 days.
You think it's ridiculous?
I think you can't really go around the country and explain
Your
intelligently your platform rather than do jingles and sing and dance and show your family portrait of people who've run it from your family. That's basically what happens during campaign season.
So clearly you're saying that the official campaign period is way too short.
I think the official campaign period is still too short, really, meaning for any intelligent discussion that stands to be able to go around the country. But that being said,
what should it be then? How long?
Well, I think sufficient, maybe 6 months, perhaps.
I mean,
for instance, in the U.S., you have they just finished the presidential elections, and it's effectively almost a year of campaigning, explaining platforms. Although the structure
have the primaries.
The structure is quite different, but at least you're able to engage the people and show the people an intelligent discourse on matters that are supposed to affect elections.
Okay, it seems that premature campaigning is not even an issue over there.
No, because you really want to feed them information. That's why the reasoning with this recent Supreme Court decision, they're saying that it deprives people of information, putting a cap. And you really step back and think, what information do you get in 1-minute ads? You don't really get anything intelligent rather than just a snapshot of their family portrait, their name.
Okay, so picking up on that, Director Ladra, how do we change the length of the official campaign period? What's the mechanism?
What will it take? The Commission is the authority under the law to prescribe the length of time that it will declare an election period.
On its own.
But of course, the laws limit us up to 120 days. We can have 90 days, and maybe if we really need some more time.
So we need to change the law then?
No, we can under the rules and the laws. We can. The authority of the Commission is it can promulgate rules and regulations, even the duration of our election period. But of course, we're thinking also, number one, the expenses that these candidates will incur if in case our period
then they're
so
forced
lengthy.
to be creative. But now with social media, they will be forced to be creative. Maybe necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. What do you think of this as a long-term solution? If I'm not mistaken, it's Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago that has suggested that perhaps there should be a requirement of those who are planning to run to file a certificate of intent to run for public office, which ideally should be filed 6 months prior to the deadline for filing of COCs, meaning there's a 6-month window before the deadline for filing your official candidacy where people will know that you have an intent to run. Or at least that extends the period by 6 months, wherein there will be no question over whether you'll be prematurely campaigning, right? What do you think of that?
I think that's one of the many different things we can explore. I think we won't be lacking in needed electoral reforms that should be embodied in laws. You have campaign finance that I don't think will be addressed yet, even if you extend campaign finance regulations, which this resolution, which was set aside by the Supreme Court, was actually trying to do. That's actually one of the bigger components that has to be addressed, which I'm not sure our legislators are up to addressing just yet.
Okay, what do you want to see?
I'd like to see, hopefully, I'd like to see the new bunch of legislators coming in, someone who's really dedicated to overhauling perhaps the electoral system, putting in place laws with teeth laws that cannot be interpreted one way to favor those who intend to skirt around the laws. Something that can send a stronger message when you talk campaign finance. That was the goal, I think, of the resolution, which I know was spearheaded by Commissioner Lim.
How about those PACs, like political action committees, like what they do in the States, to track the amount of campaign contributions and the sources of these? Even in presidential elections, it seems ridiculous. We see lists and we know that those are not really the biggest contributors. What is new now that the legal department of the COMELEC, which you head, has become the campaign finance unit as well? Is there anything novel or fresh in your approach in really trying to come up with a list with integrity?
Yes, as of this time, there are so many requirements under our rules, which, of course, these candidates will have to submit, like, for example...
After the elections?
No, the submission of the statement of contributions and expenditures will be 30 days after the elections. Yes. But as of now, we also require our candidates and even political parties and party lists to submit to us the statement of contributions and expenditures, especially during public rallies. I mean, within 5 days or 7 days after a rally, which was not there before.
Okay.
So with that, we can, at this moment in time, we can now see how much was the expenses of this particular candidate, insofar as that particular rally is concerned. And
or
of
how
course,
much they're willing to admit. There's no way of releasing how much they're going to be willing to admit. But anyway, we're going to come back to this discussion after the break. More issues about campaign guidelines, monitoring, and violations after the break. Stay tuned. You're watching Elections 2013. Welcome back to Elections 2013. We're still talking campaign guidelines, monitoring, and violations. And back to our guests. What has been the most rampant campaign violation that the No More EPA movement has observed?
Well, we think it's, aside from the overuse of TARP, and I think it's the inappropriate.
But better than those posters before that would run like a kilometer long, right? And they would stay there 20 years after the election.
We still have some of them
we
up
still
there.
do.
Yeah.
We still see
I think
some of those.
One of the worst things that we really don't like is the fact that people still name buildings after themselves. There's a law already saying that you're not supposed to name public places after living persons. Yet you see these congressmen naming barangay halls after themselves. I mean, if they're in a hurry, to pass on to the next life, then I don't think they should run.
Then do we
that's the thing that we really hate, because you're claiming that's a form of campaign, because your name is plastered for eternity until that building is
As far as you're concerned, it's not only a form of campaign, it's a form of unjust vexation, isn't it?
Of course, yes, because you're taking credit for the hard-earned taxes of the people and saying that it's your sweat and blood that caused the building to be erected, when in truth it was the deductions for taxes, the withheld taxes of the citizens.
Can we expect the legislators to legislate against something that they would like to perpetuate?
I think that's the thing that perplexes people in the civil society movements, yet they're very well aware that legislators will not put a gun to their heads and shoot themselves. That's why the difficulty in getting legislation such as the Freedom of Information Act passed or the Anti-Dynasty Act passed. You can't expect people who intend to violate the same to do the passing of the law. So better not to have a law, so they have the excuse that there's nothing being violated. So that's why our appeal always to the public is, rather than wait for the law, we should support these efforts, for instance, of the COMELEC, which go into the heart and the spirit of what a democratic practice is, such as an election.
Okay, generally, is the No More EPA movement happy with the way the COMELEC has been trying to enforce
efforts against premature campaigning. The COMELEC has promised that as soon as the election period campaigns, they will be more determined and be much stricter. Have you seen that?
Yes, considering the limitations that are there and because of the Piñera Doctrine, which we discussed earlier, considering all these external limitations, I think the COMELEC, within its mandate, has tried its best to live up to that promise to try to police elections as much as it can, especially when it comes to premature campaigning, excessive campaign spending. Yet here you have the Supreme Court say, you're not supposed to be doing that. That's why for us, that's such a big step back. Because we've been waiting for this. Actually, the resolution was something that we were wanting and hoping to be released by COMELEC. We were pushing for that as well because we have a website,
yes,
a Facebook account. We have thousands of people sending in everything they don't like about premature campaigning. And then COMELEC says, yes, it's all wrong. And then suddenly you have some people saying, no, it's okay.
Yeah, well, clearly he who has the strongest lobby rules the world, right?
That's true.
All right, but then trying your best. Granted that the COMELEC does try its best, you've got a whole horde of candidates. What is the mechanism that is in place? What is the process by which the COMELEC assesses whether there has been indeed a violation of COMELEC election guidelines? And can you actually consider all these within the time that is provided or available?
Yes, with this resolution that was promulgated January of this year, about these monitoring activities that all COMELEC people should do. Not only the law department, but even the entire field personnel that we have in the entire country. And we are also trying to get the support of the citizens through the Twitter accounts that we have. And in fact, we have been sending notices to all those who have been seen by violating our rules on propaganda materials. And we have filed several cases, election offense cases, and for those party list organizations who were not compliant to our notices, we also have initiated cancellation proceedings against them.
So far, you're happy with the results?
Well, at least as of now, we are really trying to enforce strictly the law. And all else set aside, there's no partisanship or bias or impartiality. We gave notices to all that we saw are not compliant with our rules. And if they will still not comply with our notices, then that's the time that we will have to file prosecution cases.
All right. How severe will the penalties be? For those that are in the thick of their campaigns, can their campaigns actually be terminated if they're determined to have violated campaign guidelines? Is it that severe, or everything has to happen after the election?
Well, for the party list especially, we can cancel their accreditation. And if they...
But that's singling out the party list groups. How about individual candidates?
Yeah, the law says that one of the grounds under the party list law is the cancellation of their accreditation once they violate or not comply with election laws. But in individual candidates, we also have our disqualification proceedings. But of course, that's in fact being under our rules amended to a summary proceeding as of this time. But because there are so many candidates, also individual candidates that are being now under these disqualification cases, then we will also try our best that we will be able to finish them. But under our election code, we have we have to find guilty those who are violating the number of cases that are being enumerated in Section 68 of our Omnibus Election Code.
What is your view on the level of violation propensity for these elections, let's say compared to previous elections? Are politicians more brazen today in violating campaign guidelines?
Well, for us in the Commission, we've seen, especially during the time that we started our national positions campaign period, we've seen that maybe the more manifestation kasi nung election compliance is the paraphernalia. That could be seen by everyone. And compared to the other previous elections, we can say that at least as of this time, our candidates have tried also their best to follow our rules.
All right.
Not much brazen than before.
All right. Do you share that view?
Actually,
is it more EPAL today than before?
I think one of the things that we realized when you were doing the anti-EPAL caravans is that when you shame them publicly, with the help of media as well coming on board and making it even louder, some of them actually have that hiya, and then they sort of step back a bit. That's why
So you tap into that.
realize that you see throughout the thoroughfares of Metro Manila, it's not as littered with useless
All right, so
paper. That's one improvement.
There may be hope for us yet. Vote buying, is there really any way to curb that?
There are a lot of ways where you can buy votes, no?
Right now, the
And-
latest is cell phones, right?
Yeah,
That's the latest we've heard.
and even through the internet, no, and even through social media. And
Cite
we
examples
find,
how vote buying can be done through social media.
for example, you will have your Facebook accounts or Twitter accounts talking about somebody, already a candidate for that matter, and then you'll just get the support of everyone, even paraffle, doing things that may get the support of those who are opening their Facebooks and their Twitter accounts. But also, the rules in our resolutions you will see that they also have promulgated some rules, like it shall not be in any website more than 3 times a week, and it shall be on this particular size only.
Right, that's specific, huh?
But
Okay.
of course, there are so many ways how to buy votes, and
again, so
even-
difficult for you to monitor all those websites.
Yeah, even the most rampant way of vote buying, where you give money or anything of value, that is so difficult to regulate, because you see both parties are happy with what they're doing.
Right.
So-
It's a consensual transaction,
Yeah, it's
right?
a consensual transaction that made it so impossible really to regulate.
Okay. Militant groups have criticized the COMELEC as using kid gloves, or perhaps taking a soft stand against parties allied with the administration, and perhaps being stricter with maybe the small fish. Is that fair to say?
No, of course not. Because if you will see, we have in fact released almost every day a list of those who were given notices and a list of those who complied. And many of them who were not compliant were the ones whom we filed against election cases or cancellation of their accreditation. There is no partiality, or at this time, I can say we are not taking sides. We don't even consider you as pro-administration or not. As long as you're not complying with our rules, then we have all the reasons why we shall initiate motu proprio cases against you.
All right. My final question. The COMELEC has promised a level playing field. Is within what we see among the campaign guidelines, is that enough to ensure a level playing field?
Well, I think what the key ingredient to that would be an active citizen participation. If the citizens, despite issuance of, let's say, how many resolutions of the COMELEC, or even assuming the Supreme Court did not issue the SQAO, if citizens will not step up and say, this is my elections, I want to run it the way it's going to be run the way I want and deserve that it be run, then it's going to be a circus.
Right.
So COMELEC cannot
guidelines
do
are
it
incidental
alone.
to what the
citizens have to
voters
step
wanna do.
up.
All right. All right. On that note, we're going to thank our guests, Head of the Law Department or Legal Department of the Commission on Elections, Attorney Esmeralda Amora Ladra, and from No More EPAL Movement, Attorney Irene Aguila. Here's another special report about political families joining the 2013 race. This time it's the Maliksis versus the Remullas in the province of Cavite. Let's watch.
The province's local politics can be traced back to its very first general and president of the Republic of the Philippines, Emilio Aguinaldo. Aguinaldo allegedly stole the presidency from another comrade and revolutionary, Andres Bonifacio, and ordered his execution. History seems to repeat itself as the midterm election promises the same intense rivalry between two political clans. Former allies turned rivals, Erineo Ayong Maliksi and Juanito Victor John Vic Remulla go head-to-head for the gubernatorial seat.
Awardee tayo ng Seal of Good Housekeeping, awardee tayo ng Good Governance, #1 tayo sa Region 4 in governance as per DILG.
Sa akin tingin, Ang gusto nang makita ng mga tao yung mga programa kung ano plano At yun ang napakahalaga. Ako, hindi lamang sa panahon ng eleksyon ko sinasabi yon. Kitang-kita ng mga kalalawigan namin, nung kay Gobernador, meron akong 12-point agenda at tumutugon sa lahat ng mga problema na aming nakita.
Their fate lies on the 1.5 million registered voters of Cavite, the second largest voter base outside the National Capital Region. The province is declared as an election hotspot this year. The former allies now involved in a heated word war, questioning each other's integrity and achievements.
Araw-araw na ginawa ng Diyos, namimigay sila ng pera, bigas, sa lahat ng lugar na kung saan sila pumupunta. At sinasamantala nila, yung pagdating ng mga tao, saka ako sinisiraan, meron pa silang ABP presentation.
It's an outreach program. Yung mga walang-wala, kailangan tulungan yan. Hindi naman kailangan ng calamity para tumulong ng tao
A video has been circulated recently showing John Vic giving away cash prizes to his constituents.
Merong mga politiko ginagamit ang resources, pera, bigas nga, para lamang makumbinsi na sila ihalal.
From 2012 to 2013, tumigil kami ng March 25. Bawal mamigay ang candidate ng pera o anuman pagdating ng election period. At ang election period started on March 29.
In the city of Imus, the politics is even more scorching. Two mayors are fighting for the throne. The Commission on Elections and the Supreme Court ordered the son of Ayong Maliksi Emmanuel to vacate his post after finding that Homer Sakilayan is the real winner in the 2010 elections.
Wala nang 2 buwan election na Bakit kailangan pa manggulo, di ba? Bakit ayaw na lamang hayaan na yung taong bayan ang umusga kung sino talaga yung karapat-dapat na mayor, ano?
Kung may natitira pang kahit katiting na kahihiyan, siguro dapat mag-isip-isip na siya.
Ayong Maliksi is quick to defend his son's continuing defensive stance.
Sinabi ko sa kanya na kung ano yung tama na dapat mong gawin, gawin mo.
Homer Sakilayan, for his part, finds refuge with Governor John Vic Remulla.
The COMELEC says step down. When the Supreme Court says step down, you should step down. Na nakakalungkot dyan, kala ko tuwid na daan. Pero sa dulo na lahat, politika pa rin na mas importante sa kanila
Recently, the Supreme Court reversed itself, granting a motion that effectively allows Emmanuel Maliksi to hold on to his seat as Imus City Mayor. John Vic Remulla fires back at Maliksi as he exposes Maliksi's alleged corruption involving the LRT South Extension project. The 11.7-kilometer project stretches from Baclaran to Bacoor, amounting to the total project cost of 59.2 billion pesos. The LRT extension requires two things: soil piling and relocation of affected residents.
Sa test ng NIGS, National Institute of Geological Sciences, ay yung lupa sa loob at yung lupa sa labas, yung control site sa labas, iisa lang.
Mismo mga inhinyero, under ng gobernador nagsasabi, meron hong itinambak dyan. Naandun ho kami habang tinatambakan yan, sino-supervise namin.
Remulla added that Maliksi's relocation project was overpriced.
Basta ang developer gumagawa ng bahay, all-in ang cost. Ang nangyari sa kanila, all-in. Ang nagawa nila, instead of 2,500, ang nagawa nila 180 houses.
Saan ko itatayo yung bahay na yun kung hindi ako bibili ng lupa? Doon sa 500 million, bili ko yun ng malaking parsela ng lupa na kasya ang 2,000 houses.
The heated word war never stops, with both parties threatening to file lawsuits against each other.
Sabi, Congressman, kung kaya niyong patunayan na mali ako, kung kaya niyong patunayan na mali ang pag-aaral namin at mali ang soil composition study, magre-resign ako.
Ba't hindi niya ako may demanda? Hinahamon ko siya, demanda niya na ako. Tigilan niya ng pagsasalita. Hindi niya ginagawa.
Sabi mo sa kanya, kakasuhan ko siya next week. Plunder. Kakasuhan ko na siya.
Kung ano yung totoo, siya naming iharap sa bayan. At doon sa katotohanan, kami husgahan.
Reporting for Elections 2013, Camille Elemia, Solar News.
And thank you all for joining us tonight. Tune in again next week as we make this vote count. I'm Nancy Irlanda, and this is Elections 2013.
As the May elections draw near, politicians are all out to win the positions they're vying for, and the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, is working double time on its crackdown on campaign violations. Under COMELEC Resolution 9615, standard campaign posters must measure only 2 by 3 feet and be displayed only in common poster areas. No campaign materials may be posted on public structures or edifices, public transport terminals, electric posts and wires, thoroughfares, and the like. And the national candidates' airtime for political advertisements must not exceed 120 minutes in all TV networks and 180 minutes in all radio stations. On Tuesday, the Supreme Court issued a status quo ante order against the said airtime limit, barring the COMELEC's implementation. The COMELEC has intensified its fight against violators by installing its campaign finance unit that closely monitors campaign spending. It has also launched public service announcements through the characters of Boy Bawal and Tina Tama, who preach the do's and don'ts of campaign practices. The COMELEC also seems to find its strongest tool in disciplining campaign violators through social media. Empowering the so-called netizens, the COMELEC urges the public to report violations through its Twitter account, @COMELEC, using the hashtag Sumbungmo or Sumbungko.
The 2013 midterm polls are shaping up to be an exciting one. I'm Nancy Irlanda, and this is Elections 2013. Tonight, we talk about the campaign guidelines of the Commission on Elections, or the COMELEC, as well as its monitoring schemes and the alleged violations of some political candidates. Joining us tonight, COMELEC's Law Department Head, Attorney Esmeralda Amora Ladra, and from No More EPAL Movement, an election advocate group, Attorney Irene Aguila. Good evening, and thanks for joining us on Elections 2013.
Good evening.
All right, historically, the Supreme Court and the COMELEC have been at loggerheads over various election issues, even prompting the